Season's greetings, everybody. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Well, friends, I'm officially moved in, and my flat is all decked out for the holidays, which means it's time to begin 2022's heartwarming Christmas. And courtesy of my Magic Board's alarm from last episode, we're going to start off the holiday season by looking at two Christmas-themed movies, both of which starring the beloved Disney gang. Released to video and DVD on November 9th, 1999, and on November 9th, 2004, the movies are Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas and Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas. Now, for those who may not be familiar with them, both of these holiday movies are American animated Christmas anthology package films starring Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, his nephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Goofy and Max, and others as they celebrate the joys, laughter, love, and magic of the holiday season. And what do I think of them? Well, to me, they're both fun, silly, heartwarming, and to be honest, they both do what they're meant to do. Put everybody in the holiday spirit. And that's the reason why I love them so much and watch them every year during Christmas time. Now, before we move on, let me explain a few trivia tips in my Mustang notes. Now, firstly, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas has had a group of 5 directors, and it was produced by Walt Disney Television Animation. Speaking of which, the animation was done by Walt Disney Animation Studios in both Canada and Japan, and by Toon City Inc. Also, the movie won the award for Best Animated Feature Film at the 5th Keneskemek Animation Film Festival in Hungary in 1999. As for Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, it was mainly directed by Matthew O'Callaghan, who worked at Walt Disney Animation Studios from 1981 to 2007. He directed 2006's Curious George. He worked on other projects like Cats Don't Dance, Rover Dangerfield, The Pagemaster, Steven Spielberg's Freakazoid, and the 4th Alvin and the Chipmunky movie. And he worked as a storyboard artist on Zootopia and a retake director on Tangled the series. But aside from Matthew, there were other directors involved, like Peggy Holmes, whom I talked about in my blog of The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Beginning, and just recently, she directed Luck for Skydance and Apple TV. Teresa Cullen, whom was a storyboard artist for The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, Shrek the Halls, Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, and she was a head of story on My Little Pony, A New Generation. And Carol Holiday, who helped with the storyboard revisions for Buttercup Amber for Sophia the First, and she was a storyboard artist for a Goofy movie, Tarzan and Jane, The Jungle Book 2, Bambi 2, and Brother Bear 2. Also, while Once Upon a Christmas is entirely hand-drawn, Twice Upon a Christmas is animated in CGI. Speaking of which, I must mention that Twice Upon a Christmas is Disney Toon Studios' very first computer animated movie. Speaking of animation, I think the animation for both movies are actually quite good in their own special and magical ways. While the hand-drawn animation for Once Upon a Christmas is classical, and it's the kind that audiences from my generation miss mostly, but ever since it was advertised during the mid-2000s, I felt that the CGI for Twice Upon a Christmas kind of reminded me of Mickey's PhilharMagic, which I've never seen in person until 2019 onwards at Disney's California Adventure. Plus, I think the animation is smooth, well-detailed, and the characters are designed very zany and creatively. Also, what would be Disney movies, let alone Christmas movies, without classical songs? Yes, friends, both of these movies have holiday songs that everybody knows and loves. And I love how both films end with a medley of various Christmas carols like We Wish You a Merry Christmas, Jingle Bells, and Deck the Halls. Plus, I really love the end credits songs. For example, She Daisy's cover of Deck the Halls is such a magical song. Same goes for the music video, which nowadays makes me miss my inner childhood. And I think Share This Day, performed by Josh Kelly, is such a wonderful holiday song to listen to. And I love how it explains that Christmas is a very special day to share with your friends and your family. And now, let's look at each segment one by one and see what I think of them. Let's start with Donald Duck's Stuck on Christmas. Inspired by the 1982 short story Christmas Every Day by William D. Howells, the story begins when Huey, Dewey, and Louie wake up on Christmas morning and excitingly run downstairs to open their presents, even though they were supposed to wait for Daisy, Scrooge McDuck, and Aunt Gertie to arrive. The boys then take their new sleds from Donald without reading the included card, and they go sledding before having Christmas dinner, where Donald yells at them to learn some manners. While Donald, Daisy, Scrooge, and Gertie sing Christmas carols, the boys play with their new toys. Later, it's time for bed, and having enjoyed the day immensely, the boys wish upon a star for it to be Christmas every day. Their wish is granted, and at first they are joyful, but after a few days, they begin to get tired of Christmas and they realize that every day is exactly the same. The boys then decide to change the course of action of the next day by playing tricks and pranks, including swapping the cooked turkey with a live one at dinner. Sadly, it turns out to be a very terrible Christmas for everybody, especially for Donald. Shortly after, the boys read the card, which explains that Christmas is not about presents. It's about being with family. The boys then feel guilty and decide to make amends by making the next day the best Christmas ever. As the boys spread love and cheer by giving Gertie Christmas kisses, giving nuts to Chip and Dale, and helping Daisy with dinner, Donald becomes very suspicious. While singing Christmas carols with Uncle Scrooge, Donald confronts the boys and demands to know what's going on. Huey, Dewey, and Louie then pull out their gift for Donald, a sailboat made out of their sleds. Genuinely surprised, embarrassed, and touched, Donald thanks his nephews with a warm hug. At the end of the next day, the boys finally realize the true meaning of Christmas and the time loop ends, leading into the day after Christmas. Now, what I like about this segment is that it mostly revolves around Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who I think are still as thick as thieves as they are in the Disney cartoons and in DuckTales. Also, while this segment has a time loop plot, I think it's not as repetitive as in Sunset's Backstage Pass, which I blogged last year. Plus, aside from Donald Duck, I like that Chip and Dale make a cameo in this while playing with a train set during the time loop, and I like that Scrooge McDuck and Donald Duck's sweetheart Daisy are featured in it too. By the way, fun fact, this segment marks Trez MacNeille's first performance as Daisy. Hard to believe, huh? As for the underrated Aunt Gertie, well, to me, while she is kind and lovable, she's a bit over the top, especially when the boys do not take lightly to her Christmas kisses. Also, this wild turkey has got to be one of the funniest running gags that I've ever seen in a Disney Christmas film. And I think it has such a wonderful moral about spending the holidays with family. Next up is A Very Goofy Christmas. In this, Goofy and his young son Max are mailing a letter to Santa Claus. However, as soon as they get home, their neighbor Pete tells Max that Santa does not exist, which really breaks Max's heart. But then things get worse when Goofy poses as Santa for some kids, and Max finds out when his beard and hat are pulled off. Fortunately, Goofy is determined to prove to Max that Santa does exist, and he plans to stay up all Christmas Eve night to keep an eye out for him, while Max, still bitter, just wants to move on. After mistaking a Beagle Boy for Santa, Goofy eventually gives up hope of Santa coming. Max then does everything that Goofy did earlier to try to make him happy, including posing as Santa himself. In the end, the real Santa actually comes and gives Max the gift that he had asked for earlier, as well as burying Pete's house in snow. When Max asks Goofy if Santa forgot his present, Goofy answers that every year he asks for the very same thing and he always gets it: Max's happiness. In my opinion, this segment makes a pretty good prequel to the Goof Troop show, and what makes this really touching is the father and son relationship between Max and Goofy. And I think the scene where Goofy goes through many hijinks and obstacles at the mall while he and Max chase the mailman were pretty zany. And I like how determined Goofy is to make his son happy. And I also thought the moments involving Max's old stuffed teddy bear were really cute. However, if there's one thing that makes me frown in this segment, even though it is a plot point, it's the part where Pete says that Santa is not real, which to me not only ruins Max's childhood, but it makes me very, very irritated. Because everybody knows that Santa exists. Heck, even I caught a glimpse of him placing presents under my tree from my balcony years ago, and I rushed back to bed before he saw me. Also, I think this segment has a wonderful moral that, with a little faith and trust in our loved ones, our dreams can come true. Also to note, has anyone noticed that while Goofy is placing ornaments on his tree, one of said ornaments resembles Angelique from Beauty and the Beast and Enchanted Christmas? Also to note, one of the stores at the shopping mall that Goofy visits is called Lumberjack Lingerie, which is obviously a reference to Monty Python's The Lumberjack song. The last segment in Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas is Mickey and Minnie's Gift of the Magi, based on the 1905 short story The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. In this, Mickey Mouse wants to give Minnie a gold chain for her one heirloom, her watch, and Minnie wants to get Mickey a case for his harmonica. While working at Crazy Pete's tree lot, Mickey offers a small tree to a poor family who cannot afford to buy a special 10-foot tree. His greedy supervisor, Pete, steals Mickey's money and dismisses him and Pluto. Thankfully, Pete gets his comeuppance when he inadvertently puts his lit cigar in his back pocket with Mickey's money without noticing, which triggers a sequence that ends up setting himself, the money, and his trees on fire, much to Pete's dismay. Meanwhile, while Minnie is working hard at a department store in hopes to get a Christmas bonus to buy Mickey's present, her stingy boss Mortimer Mouse presents her bonus as nothing but a heavy fruitcake. After playing music for a toy drive with the Firehouse 5 band, Mickey gets an idea to trade his harmonica for the gold chain. Back at Minnie's house, Mickey gives her the chain for her watch, which she no longer has, and Minnie gives him a case for his harmonica, which he no longer has. However, Mickey and Minnie get emotional seeing how far they went to profess their love, and they are still able to celebrate a happy Christmas. To me, this has got to be my favorite out of the three stories in Once Upon a Christmas. By the way, while I do know about the original 1905 story, and I did see a film version during my 6th grade year, I admit that I was actually introduced to the story of the Gift of the Magi from the 1987 Christmas Eve on Sesame Street special, where Ernie and Bert traded their paperclip collection and rubber ducky for a cigar box and a soap dish. Also, I have a couple fun facts to mention. Firstly, during this story, Minnie's co-worker Daisy is voiced by Diane Mitchell. The fireman band that Mickey plays his harmonica with is based on the Firehouse 5+2, which was a Dixieland band led by Ward Kimball, who used to perform at Disneyland and made a few appearances on the Mickey Mouse Club. Also, while performing with the band, Mickey performs one of his dance moves from Mickey's birthday party. Also, aside from the toy drive scene, I like the part where Pluto pretends to be a horse while he and Mickey take Minnie to work. And I like that there are a couple cameos from characters like Figaro, Horace Horsecollar, Clarabelle Cow, and for some reason, Owl from the Winnie the Pooh universe. However, I didn't really like where Pete took advantage of a poor family and took away Mickey's money. However, what makes up for it is the part where Pete's tree lot caught fire, which really made me smile. And it does teach a lesson to never put a lit cigar in your back pocket. Also, the part where Mortimer gave Minnie a fruitcake made me think back to a quote that I said on stage during Christmas 2003.
Yeah, I'd rather a birthday cake instead of fruitcake.
And I thought Mortimer was very rude for constantly mispronouncing Minnie's name all the time. And now let's talk about the segments from Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, starting with Bells on Ice. In this, Minnie and Daisy are joined by their respective boyfriends, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, as they prepare to take the ice. Daisy becomes envious of the crowd's reaction to Minnie, and she attempts to steal the spotlight for herself. Minnie then performs several daredevil stunts to regain the spotlight, while Daisy summons the Fantasia Hippos, who become her backup skaters, while her counterpart summons the alligators. Fed up, Daisy and Minnie argue and shove each other around, putting each other at risk. And then they try pulling dramatic stunts to draw the attention of the crowds as Mickey and Donald watch with worry. When Minnie accidentally slips on a fallen handbell while landing from a stunt blindfolded, Daisy helps Minnie up while feeling sorry for her selfish actions. Minnie then feels the same way, and to make up for it, they both perform a grand finale, this time working together as a team. In my opinion, this segment is pretty nice, and I like that it centers on the friendship between Minnie and Daisy. Plus, I like that the Fantasia Hippos and alligators have an appearance in this. Also, while the rivalry plot was pretty silly, I thought the ice skating was very graceful, and the chorus was absolutely beautiful to listen to. But at the same time, watching this segment again really makes me miss the days when I used to have ice skating lessons at the Ice Palace years ago before my leg was operated. No thanks to a giant cell tumor in my femur. And to this day, I pray for a chance to go ice skating again just one more time. And in my opinion, I think Miss Peggy Holmes did a wonderful job directing this segment. Next up is Christmas Impossible. This segment tells the story of Huey, Dewey, and Louie celebrating Christmas Eve with Donald and Daisy Duck at Scrooge McDuck's mansion in Duckburg. After causing some trouble at dinner time, Scrooge warns them not to make the same mistakes that he made when he was a lad. The boys know that they're on the naughty list for sure, so they travel to the North Pole via airmail to write their names on Santa's good list. At Santa's workshop, the boys cause more trouble by making a mess while trying to find the key to the room containing Santa's good list. But thankfully, they and the elves help save Christmas by cleaning up the workshop. Before they leave, they look into an opportunity to add their names to the good list. However, they instead add Scrooge's name, mindful of the fact that he was never written on the list either. With their mission accomplished, they head back home to Duckburg. On Christmas Day, they find a single gift for Scrooge, but Santa also leaves them a note that explains that their actions have caused them to also be on the good list themselves, and there were more presents behind their tree. In my opinion, this would have to be one of my favorites, mainly due to this segment being reminiscent to Mission Impossible, in a way. And I really love how Santa's toy factory looks in this. Plus, I like the parts where the boys ship themselves to the North Pole via airmail, and the part where they help Santa's elves clean up their mess. Also, I like that this segment gives Scrooge McDuck some character development when he tells the boys that the reason why he was never on Santa's good list was due to his selfishness and greediness. Also, I just can't believe that Donald is portrayed as a very impolite jerk in this. Next we come to Christmas Maximus. In this, Goofy's son Max, all grown up, brings home his girlfriend Mona for Christmas. However, Max is unsure whether or not he wants Mona to meet his dad. At first, he's embarrassed by Goofy, who labels his small car as a limo, decorates the house with so many Christmas lights, shows baby pictures to Mona, and wipes cocoa off Max's face. While wandering outside, he notices that his scarf was made by Goofy, and he realizes that Goofy is always, well, Goofy, and that is why he loves him. Max then forgets about being embarrassed and decides to join in on the fun when the popcorn machine goes haywire. Max then tries to stop the machine, but has popcorn inflating his clothes, which embarrasses him, and then he lets go and flies across the room, but nevertheless, Max enjoys it. Goofy tries to stop it next, but he is swung around in the air by the machine, and he, Max, and Mona are all pushed up by the popcorn through the chimney and onto the roof. Following this, Mona then reveals to have the same kind of teeth like Goofy and Max. They all laugh and make snow angels on their roof. To me, while this is the shortest segment in the entire movie, I think it's very understanding due to the fact that, like in a Goofy movie, Max can't stand his dad's goofy antics. Plus, I think the song Make Me Look Good has a really emotional message, and the ending is both funny and heartwarming. Plus, I think Mona is a really sweet girl. By the way, originally, Roxanne was gonna make an appearance in this, but she was sadly scrapped due to the animators not having the budget to animate her wavy long hair, which led to the fans wondering why didn't they just give her a haircut? Funny, huh? And now we come to Donald's gift. While Donald Duck is on his way home from grocery shopping, he daydreams about hot chocolate and sadly misses his bus. Donald then runs to catch up with it, but he is slowed down by a series of well-wishers that begin to sing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" and increasingly annoys him. And after just arriving home, Donald gets annoyed to hear the same Christmas songs on his radio. When Daisy and his nephews arrive, Donald becomes very annoyed that they want to go to the mall so soon and he doesn't want to come along. But Daisy drags him out anyway. At the mall, Donald grabs a cup of hot chocolate, but unfortunately, he discovers various objects playing We Wish You a Merry Christmas, which causes him to be even more annoyed. Later, upon entering a dark room, Donald thinks that he is safe, but he surprisingly finds the room filled with singing animatronics. He then immediately wrecks them until he notices that he has destroyed the Mousie's window display. After being thrown out by a mall guard for his lack of Christmas spirit, Donald walks home alone while feeling guilty. On the way, Donald comes across a group of Christmas carolers having trouble with singing together, to which he takes charge and conducts the group. When Daisy and the boys arrive, Donald apologizes to everyone for his selfishness and then joins the townspeople around a Christmas tree happily singing together. In my opinion, while Donald is mostly a selfish and grumpy jerk during this segment, at the same time, he's very understandable due to him wanting to have some peace and quiet and a cup of hot chocolate. Plus, Donald kind of reminds me of me whenever I'm exhausted after a hard day's shift. Plus, the song We Wish You a Merry Christmas being sung so many times throughout this segment is a bit annoying. And the way Donald's annoyance gets the better of him is kind of similar to how the It's a Small World clock tower is in Epic Mickey. Also, even though Donald destroyed it, I thought the Mousie's Christmas window display was pretty magical. By the way, for those who don't know, Mousie's department store is a spoof on the Macy's department store, which was later reused in Little Rodentia in Zootopia. Also, I like where Donald helps conduct a group of carolers in order to make up for his behavior. And finally, we have our last segment, Mickey's Doggone Christmas. In this segment, Mickey is setting up decorations for a Christmas party. However, when his dog Pluto attempts to help by putting the star on his tree, he inadvertently destroys all the decorations and knocks down the Christmas tree. Mickey then yells at Pluto in frustration and sends him to his doghouse as punishment. Feeling like he is rejected by his owner, Pluto decides to run away from home and then finds himself shipped on a train to the North Pole, where Santa's reindeer, Donner and Blitzen, adopt him and rename him Murray. Back at home, Mickey redecorates the house and, feeling ashamed of how he lost his temper at Pluto, attempts to reconcile with him, only to find him missing with his collar laying on the floor of his doghouse. Desperate to find him, Mickey posts several lost dog posters and eventually turns to a department store Santa Claus who, surprise, surprise, turns out to be the real one. Meanwhile, Pluto becomes very homesick and begins to miss being with Mickey, to which Santa and the reindeer help Pluto return home. As Mickey's friends arrive on a snowplow, which they use to help find Pluto, he completes the Christmas tree decorations and everyone celebrates Pluto's return. Even Donald, Daisy, Huey, Dewey, Louie, Scrooge, Max, Goofy, and Minnie. Now, in my opinion, I like how this segment mostly revolves around Pluto, and even though he accidentally caused a huge mess, I like that he wants to help Mickey with the Christmas decorating. Plus, the part where Pluto becomes homesick really makes me want to give him a big hug. Also, while I do think that Mickey is a lovable Disney character, I didn't really like his overly focused attitude, or the part where he scolds Pluto. Plus, I think the two reindeer, Donner and Blitzen, were pretty decent characters while looking after Pluto. However, between the two, Donner is friendly and fun-loving, while Blitzen is sarcastic, strict, and serious. And I liked when Santa takes Pluto back home. Also to mention, this segment has a running gag involving a snowplow, which is revealed to be driven by Goofy and hired by Scrooge. And now, let's take a look at the voice cast. Of course, we have the late Wayne Allwine as Mickey Mouse, the late Russi Taylor as Minnie Mouse along with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Tony Anselmo as Donald Duck, Bill Farmer as Goofy and Pluto, the late Alan Young as Scrooge McDuck, Jim Cummings as Pete, and aside from voicing Daisy, Tress MacNeille also voices Aunt Gertie. As for the rest of the cast, we have Minnie's snooty and profound employer, Mortimer Mouse, voiced by Jeff Bennett, Goofy's son Max, voiced by Sean Fleming and Jason Marsden, and Max's girlfriend Mona, voiced by Roxanne's voice actress Kelly Martin. We also have characters like the man in red himself, Santa Claus, voiced by Jim Cummings and Chuck McCann, and two of Santa's reindeer, Donner, voiced by Jeff Bennett, and Blitzen, voiced by Jim Cummings. And the narrators are voiced by Kelsey Grammer and Clive Revell. And now on to my final words. Overall, Mickey's Once and Twice Upon a Christmas are both fun, zany, heartwarming, and magical movies. The animation for both films are excellent in their own special and magical ways. They both have great and charming stories. The characters are all classical and lovable. The voice acting is fantastic. The songs are nice to listen to. And I like that both films do what they're supposed to do. Put everybody in the holiday spirit. Also, like most films that I've talked about before, I make it a tradition to watch both of these during the holiday season, and trust me, rewatching them again this Christmas is making me really excited for not only the reopening of Mickey's Toontown at Disneyland, but for the upcoming Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which should have its grand opening during late January of 2023. As for my rating, I'll give Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas a full 100% and Twice Upon a Christmas a 95%. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time where I finally look at Princess Sophia's second Wassalia episode, Mustang Power.